On his debut, Jarno Opmeer wins at Spa.
It's Martinez in Montreal. David beats Goliath.
It's a true underdog story. John Evans wins at Mexico.
And it's Super Sam Corby who takes the PlayStation Championship.
FRA Ron Hart takes his first WOR Championship. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jake Benham is a two-time WOR champion.
Stop it! Around the outside operated line shadow is contact again. Ron Hart is around.
Melanie, surely is going to win here at Abu Dhabi. He does.
15 races across 5 continents. From Brazil to Belgium and Bahrain to Britain. Soon this story starts. Across 3 platforms, hundreds will begin the quest. The quest in search of glory and the right to be called a WOR champion. Lights out, and we're racing in Season 12.
Don't know about you, but I think we should just get on with another round of WOR. This is the beginning of Season 13. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen, across the world. You are tuning in to the social race here, the lobby #1 on the Xbox platform. It is myself, Jota, alongside you for this event, and of course, alongside me, none other than Joseph. Good evening to yourself, sir. Welcome aboard to Season 13 of WOR. Certainly looking forward to being alongside you for this little social event.
Much, yeah. Another stop on the pre-season tour, if you like. If you're into sports such as football or rugby, you might understand that a little bit more because that's the more traditional over there. But yeah, Formula 1, unusual to have pre-season races, but of course, it's the virtual world. We can make the most of it. And this time around, it's Miami off the back of Australia, and we head to another street circuit here in the south of the US.
South of the US, indeed. I mean, we've got 19 corners of free-flowing circuit. Of course, brand new to this new game. F122 is a big welcome to F122 as well, of course, after the, shall we say, not-so-pinnacle era of F1 2021. And so far, the reviews suggesting pretty good. People enjoying driving on here, but certainly the cars, a brand new challenge. Plenty of drivers feeling the difference out there, feeling like the cars are a little bit heavy on the rear and just heavy in general, because of course the cars are a lot stiffer this year, but so far new challenge makes for new competition and potentially a new champion.
Yeah, definitely so. And one of the main differences is how you get on the throttle. Most drivers not even stepping any lower than 3rd gear, which is one of the big talking points of this year's game. And Miami really does epitomise that, even through the Mickey Mouse chicane, as drivers like to call it. Yeah, you're not really running low gears there at all. You're having to keep the car firm and drive the curbs to their limit, of course. That's often very unforgiving now as well. So many changes, and another test really. See if these drivers could just mop up the mistakes and get themselves into a rhythm.
This girl there, just with Jack coming around that particular set of chicanes. Of course, one set of corners that we are going to be keeping an eye on is under the bridge, heading through turn 13, 14 and 15. A big tank slapper for Jack as he's heading around the circuit in Alpine, and wonderful livery, I must say, as well. Actually, I was going to be a bit worried about when BWT announced they were going to be the livery sponsor of Alpine, but overall they've actually made a cracking little livery as he just pops into the pits, and that is his lap over and done with. And I should imagine he chose to abandon that one as a result of the incident heading through 14 and 15. So let's go on board with FRA Pisty then. So Season 10 world champion back in TSRL before TSL closing. He's now facing a new challenge as the Hungarian in these brand new cars. Going the racing in the Williams for this social event tonight, and certainly going to be a driver to watch alongside other drivers that you may be familiar around here as well. The likes of Elite, of course, a very quick driver is the Welshman alongside Matthew, and of course Wilson in the Aston Martin, currently yet to set a lap, alongside who we're on board with at the moment in Pisty, as he is just trying to get to grips, I believe, with the Williams. Doesn't look like he's putting too much pressure on the car.
And you mentioned their names like Elite, who, funnily enough, at the top of the timesheet so far in this qualifying session, if you look at the top of any time trial leaderboard, he's probably going to be up there. So, yeah, don't rule him out of anything this season. Even if he qualifies low, he qualifies high, he's always going to be there in the race to compete. But Pisty then, actually thinking back to F1 2021, and I can't remember too much of Pisty, so I think, like you said, it goes back a bit further, back to the TSRL days, but either way, it's great to see him here. He crosses the line and goes P13, so again, finding momentum, still plenty of time left to go in this session, and the Williams driver pops his lap in.
Yeah, certainly, just like I said, just trying to get a little bit of a feel for the car, I believe, and of course this was what seems to be maybe a potential first opportunity for some competitive-ish racing in WOR. Of course, this is the social race, so nothing is going to be against any of the drivers, of course, if any accidents occur, as long as no one's playing about. It's all about trying to get used to the game, trying to enjoy the game, as we're following Bobberts at the moment, ESV Bobberts, 18th at the moment, 17 seconds down on pole positions, obviously just setting the preliminary lap time as Elite goes even faster. He was actually within half a tenth of Nick. Now it's now 4.5 tenths of the Shazoo driver, who's looking pretty sharp indeed. Wilson in third place as well. He's just tucked in behind Nick as well by 4 thousandths of a second, as we are following Bobberts at the moment, as he is just going around turn 6 into turn 7, and he goes really wide, but the game not registering a track extension on this particular occasion as he heads down the straights now, or the straight not straight if you will, actually heading through 9 and then through 10 and the long sweeping left-hander here through into 11, where then of course you've got the complex set of corners. And now, you mentioned earlier, Joseph, about how the cars, you've got to adapt to these new cars now, because they're very, very heavy, and as a result people do get a little bit trigger happy with the accelerator pedal, people not particularly used to it. This part of the circuit, as we are currently following Bobberts now, very easy to make a mistake, and with those walls so close by, you could be in a wall very quickly.
Yeah, so many traction zones then off the exit of turn 11, and then you've got the long right-hander into turn 12, which I found you constantly need to be changing between third and fourth gear, to be honest, although that's probably not the most economical way around the corner. You need to have that balance of both rotation, which is what third gear offers you, and traction, which is what fourth gear offers you, say, as well. And then you've got turn 15, which is the exit. It's uphill following the chicane, and then turn 16 as well. So plenty of areas where it can all go wrong. And like you said, with the walls in close proximity, we could be seeing some bits of carbon fibre come off those front wings. We've been a bit used to that today. Plenty of damage in that British Grand Prix. No spoilers if you haven't watched it, but yeah, definitely, like you say, a tricky section of track.
Yeah, absolutely. Watch the highlights of that British Grand Prix if you have missed out. But just before you do, feel free to watch this WOR session. Of course, we've got Lobby 1 happening right now. Lobby 2 following on at 8 o'clock, if I remember so correctly. So plenty of opportunity for drivers to get out there and enjoy this brand new game. And just following on from the enjoyable experience of not just driving, but also running. It's the Humperdinck. Luke himself is currently racing as well. He's down in 20th yet to set a lap as he spits out wide, heading through turns 7 and 8. And he's just invalidates as he comes out of the corner. I don't know how that math works out, but there you go. He is a driver. Well, let's be honest, he's a guy that's going to be looking out for us in the commentary box. And despite all the headaches that I'm sure that not just Xbox but PC have been having, just getting these streams up and running, the teething problems of F1 22 maybe, he is absolutely running away when it comes to running the show. So do appreciate all the efforts him and of course the rest of the WOR team are doing at the moment to try and get these games out there and on the stream, as he's just going around the turns 13, 14, 15, 16, a little bit on the rear. A little bit happy indeed does that Williams.
It does, and you mentioned Luke, the Humperdinck. He did race as well on Tuesday night, and even in this amazing crop of drives that we have, he was really, really competitive. In the race, he started a bit further down. I think it was P13, but I was going on about, well, he can make a comeback here, and he certainly did do that. He was really strong in the race, put on a great show racing as well. He knows how to race cleanly. He knows how to organise a lead quickly, and though he is under our noses at times, yeah, certainly, it's great to be able to watch him race in these sorts of events.
I don't know, I've gone through 3 variations of how to pronounce his name, so we'll go with Sizer for now. In the Alfa Romeo, currently P3 at the moment, 3.5 tenths down on Elite, just a little bit over 1 tenth down on Placky at the moment in the Alpha Tauri. So far so good really for the usual suspects, Elite, Placky, Nick Wilson, Smokey of course, as well as Matthew, all in those top 8 spots. Venom down in 13th at the moment. Pisty a little bit out of position in 16th at the moment, as Choco just up into P4. Looking very happy indeed is Choco. He's a driver that's slowly but surely getting to grips with driving these Formula 1 cars. Beginning of last season, I'd argue that he wasn't really up there, maybe midfield driver. Now, he's maybe someone to watch this season.
Definitely so. It looks like it. Beating their M Racer by just 100th of a second. And M Racer is a driver that really did impress as well the other night. He took the race win and the fastest lap. So if you can beat the likes of M Racer, Wilson, Smokey, Matthew, those sorts of caliber of drivers, yeah, I don't see why he can't push his game. Aim high this season in WOR Season 13 or whatever league it may be. Meanwhile, we have down at turn 17, that's TMS Amaze that's gone straight on, perhaps just missed his braking point and opted for the safe option in the Ferrari.
Yeah, I can't blame him for that one, to be fair. We just go back on board with Smokey, of all people, at the moment. As the former FRT driver now racing for WR Esports, down in 8th place at the moment, just warming his tyres up in the Haas. He's now just going to be getting himself around that circuit, keep those tyres warm, and keep them ready for another hot lap around this wonderful circuit. We have 3 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Of course, now we all say social race, everyone's just having a bit of a laugh, but of course this is a testing opportunity for a lot of these drivers to really make a name for themselves this season. It's a new generation of cars. Who is going to be the quickest to adapt to these brand new cars, brand new almost physics to cope with in these cars as well, as he now heads into turn 1, does Smokey. A little bit of a lock-up on that front right-hand tyre into 2, and then keeps it steady up on 3. Doesn't look like he's really putting too much pressure on this particular lap. Maybe just a semi-banker lap, if you will, to try and improve, and then have another proper go at it straight afterwards.
Yeah, just under 3 minutes left to go then in this session. This is where it really counts. How's your nerve to the 20 drivers, if you like, is a question that goes out to all of them. Smokey then about to open DRS. It's almost halfway down this windy back straight. I know it's labelled as a straight officially, but like you said earlier, there are a couple of corners, turn 9 and turn 10, which you've got to work your way through. And again, into the tight and twisty section of turns 11, 12, now through 13. It looks like he's backed off, so maybe he's going to recharge that battery. He sees a little bit of traffic maybe in front of him, and he'll go again on the next one.
Yeah, can't really blame him, to be fair. I did see that he was just going to back off. It looked like he lost the rear ever so slightly, actually, going through turn 9, 10. That's one thing these drivers have got to be aware of as well. There is a real possibility of snapping in these cars as well. I think great example of this actually is Australia. You know, the right-hander that used to be heading into that chicane before turn 10 is now obviously a long sweeping right-hander into a left, and unfortunately we see a lot of people actually spinning out without actually really doing anything, as we've just got a little bit of an incident between Matthew and Fern in what seems to be the clumsiest thing I have ever seen in a qualifying session, where it looks to me as if Matthew was just trying to clean his tyres up, maybe warm them up, and Fern has driven just alongside him, and Matthew has completely taken the front wing off of Fern, and that is now his qualifying session over and done with for Fern. There may even be damage to the side pods for Matthew as well, but that Alfa Romeo is certainly out of the running. There's no more qualifying for him as Legend comes across the line, and he will start his lap for P11.
Didn't quite catch that incident, but as you can see on the track map, there is a lot of traffic going into that final corner, especially coming off the back of a pretty much single file section of track. Yeah, that is going to start catching people out, and especially if Miami is ran maybe across the lower tiers of WOR this season. Yeah, that is going to catch an awful lot of people out. So Matthew and Fern there just getting the errors out the way, if you like. But Matthew is able to continue, and Fern, like you say, is back into the pits. That's his qualifying session over in the Alfa Romeos. Meanwhile, we've had VSR Jack, I believe, go up to the second row at the moment. That might well be his final lap in the session, because these cars are draining an awful lot of battery.
Certainly are indeed. Wilson not improving, Elite is not improving, Plaque not improving either, so Jack snagging P3 and getting on the front part of the second row is certainly a good spot for him. But Cypher is slowly closing the gap. He managed to find half a tenth in the second sector alone. He's in the third now, heading then into that left-hander who's got to keep it nice and tidy indeed through 17, and then 18-19 is of course flat out as he comes across the line. Can he improve up to above VSR Jack? In fact, he goes above Plaque. He's on the front row of the grid, and he's only just behind Elite as well, by less than a tenth of a second.
That is a great lap there from Scyther. He's really improved in qualifying pace, and we'll see what he can do in the strategy, because of course none of these positions really do matter when you've got the free choice for everyone in the race. Now, complete freedom when we get to lights out. VSR Jack is invalid on this lap. Wilson around 7 seconds down, so I don't think he's improving. M Racer is invalid. He's a big name that again looks to impress this evening. Shazoo Nick invalid once more as well. FRT Finn invalid. So I think, Jota, that just about does it, because the Humperdinck has also spun on the exit.
Yeah, a few people pushing maybe that's just a little bit too far, expecting the grip that just is no longer there. So Humperdinck just managing to get the car self-lighted absolutely perfectly as he now heads into the pit lane, and he'll be starting at the back of the grid with no lap time to his name as he spins it out again. In a weird turn of events, it looks like he's actually going to do donuts. I'm not sure, but either way, he comes into the pit lane, and that is his session over and done with. But as I rightfully pointed out there, it is of course the Welshman basically starting where he left off last season. He's on pole.
He is, and it's hard not to be impressed by Elite. When he first made the breakthrough on F1 2021, I raised a few questions. He was picking up a lot of penalties in the race, and though his one lap pace was still incredible as it is now. Sorry, certainly he's up to his game in the race, so don't be surprised if he goes on to maybe even dominate here. That's if he can leave Scyther, Placky, Jack, etc. out of that DRS train, which of course is more prominent than ever on this year's Formula 1 game.
Certainly is as well. So Scyther obviously taking that cracking front row start for him. It was a good lap indeed to get himself on that front row, and the Americans starting in second place, but not as fast as FRA Elite, leaving off, as I said, starting off where he left off. Get pole position, he leads the way. Placky in third place with Jack in fourth, and then Smokey in fifth place. It's a good position for Smokey to try and get some elbows out. We'll see what he can do with Wilson in sixth place, Choco in seventh, the Racer in eighth, and then Pisty in ninth place. And certainly in the position that we'd expect him to be at the beginning of the season. He is trying to just find the pace a little bit later on throughout the season, with Nick in 10th, and then Matthew, Fern, Legend, Finn, Venom, Silas, with Bourbon in 17th, Boberts in 18th, and Mays down in 19th, and then of course Luke, the Humperdinck, down in 20th without a lap time to his name. So we move on then to the race. Of course, there's going to be, I believe, a short break before we get on with this race. It is indeed one of those races I think that we're all going to be just keeping a very firm eye on, because being in Miami, of course, it's a very close-knit circuit. Might as well call it a street circuit, let's be honest.
Definitely, and there were many simulations of this track. 75 circuits designed and 36 simulated, and well, they came up with this. Whether you like it or not, it's here to stay, and we're about to race on in the Miami Gardens. That's the one I was looking for. But yeah, past the Hard Rock Stadium, of course. You run parallel on two of the straights going into turn 1, and then turn 3 to turn number 4 as well. So it is a real picture here in Miami, and very expensive as well if you ever wanted a ticket to the real life event. still there?
Hopefully, fingers crossed, you should be able to hear me now. We did have some technical issues. Looks like we've got some sound issues, as you might be able to hear as well. We've got sound issues within the game. The horrible reverberation sound really kicking in. But fingers crossed, you'll at least have us in the background now as we keep going and watching Matthew here. Very, very interesting start to this race, though, Joe, as if we have Elite managing to pull away here, but Scyther holding on those hard tyres, managing to hold on to P2. He's pulling that gap between him, Smokey, and Wilson here, and potentially Placky in 5th.
Like that DRS threat. That is nearly a whole straight between FRA Elite and Scyther at the moment. That is an incredible first couple of laps from FRA Elite as we get the DRS open. Now, of course, Scyther though holding on. He's on the hard tyres, the alternate strategy to what Elite is trying. So he's running his own race. I don't think he's too bothered about Elite at the moment. He's more bothered about the race with, say, Placky, who's just three positions behind at the moment.
Good race so far, though, from Smokey, and I think, fingers crossed, we should at least have some of the commentator sound back. Apologies if you were unfortunate enough to be able to experience the technical issues that we currently have. It looks like there may have been some real sound issues that are developing throughout the game as well, so fingers crossed we should have that back all up and running. And it looks like to me that lagging starting to pick up again, so we might be all okay. Keep our fingers crossed. We are at the start of the game. Cycle as there's an instant between Scyther and Smokey. Scyther has been nudged off. Looks like spun out by the WOR Smokey in the Haas. And now he comes around the circuit. May have got front wing damage as Wilson trying to get around him here. Opportunity for the WOR Wilson to get around his co-compatriot WOR Esports. But Scyther, in what was having a good race so far, unfairly nudged down to 8th.
Yeah, so harsh there on Scyther because he was just making the corner, you know, and Smokey there just tapping the rear of him. And, well, it looks like a case of he's just missed his braking point there. So, unfortunate. Smokey hopefully will apologise for that one. And we've got another spin. It's Shizu Nick at the final corner, and he's had contact with Sav Legends. So, multiple collisions going on this lap as drivers find their feet. The race definitely, though, not one on lap 3.
Well, we're currently following the battle at the moment for P4. We've got 4 cars battling in such a close proximity at the moment. Choco, Matthew, M-Racer and Pisty all in a battle. Now, they're all on the medium tyre here, so they're all matching strategies. So they're going to be racing with each other and racing with each other very quickly here as well as they're going through now that long left-hander and then heading down the straight, not straight, if you will, through turn 10. And these drivers all keeping in close proximity, of course. Now here comes the DRS as we now follow WOR Matthew. Is he going to get close enough? I'm not so sure. He's already munched through all of his ERS here, and that is going to be a significant problem. We'll see what happens then as he comes into the corner. He chooses in the end not to go anywhere near that potential overtake. Is a little bit wide there is PSR Fern, and we have a further battle happening here for 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th place, all in a little bit of a train here. And Finn is on soft tyres, bearing in mind as well. He's the only person to start on the soft tyres, so he really needs to make some ground and needs to make it quick.
Definitely, but at times I think you can go 8, 9, maybe 10 laps into this race and then try and go to the end on medium tyres. Timing is going to be important here, particularly with safety cars. We know all about that today, of course. And we've got an overtake. It's M-Racer and Matthew. And M-Racer has just edged in front of the Red Bull sister team there as Matthew looks to fight back. He's got the DRS, but not much battery to play with in comparison to M-Racer at this moment in time.
FRT Finn looking to make an overtake as well on Fern, and he does exactly that on the soft tyres. He's got 1.7 second window now to try and close down that gap to Pisty and join that DRS train for P4 as the 2 Mercedes will create that sandwich, if you will. But, of course, if he stays within that DRS, which is what Fern will be looking to try and do with Scyther, the 2 Alfa Romeos will be able to pack up and try and make some headway. But of course, Scyther shouldn't be in this position here. He should be in the top 3 but after that incident with Smokey, he's going to be in a little spot of bother here now to try and make that ground up on hard tyres, and suddenly the strategy really flipping on its head. Unfortunate situation for him, as Connor commenting into the chat here, as actually just before we do that, Scyther about to make a move on his teammate, and it looks like Fern doesn't want to make too much trouble of it, as the Alpine of Jack nearly making a monumental mess up by crashing into the back of the Alfa Romeo, but Joss holding on, but unfortunately losing a position, as Venom also struggling as well and almost pushing the Alfa Romeo around the turn 12-11, and he's in the wall as well, and it is excuse me, it is Jack getting into the mix as well, and it is really close stuff between these drivers here, and almost getting really close to comfort is Silas also getting into the mix as well. They're touching tyres. That could have been a big spin out, but thankfully not, as he now heads into turn 14, and it's going to be steady, it's going to be close, and there's a lock-up, and that Ferrari is going to be squeezed out by the Alpine, and the Haas is almost going to be in the mix here for a potential double overtake. Here they come, going through that corner, and it looks like surely the Haas is going to make the move, and he certainly does. He's now to P11.
Still holding on then into turn 1. He goes on the throttle gently. So difficult on these medium tyres, which obviously don't have as much grip as, you know, the optimal time trial soft tyres, but still fighting Jack and Venom just behind now in the Ferrari is through turn 3, turn 4. There you go. And still, it's going to be Jack with the DRS then coming through turn number 7 through the kink of 8, and 2 more of 9 and 10 just ahead. The DRS imminent. The DRS detection zone is actually on the straight, so that does make for some interesting games if we do see that later in the race. Jack is gaining, but not close enough.
Yeah, choosing not to use the overtake ERS that he's actually built, in fairness, to Jack. Unfortunately, no overtake on this particular occasion. Maybe he's actually looking for it down that main straight, heading into the final couple of corners before we start the 7th lap. We'll have to see, and we'll stay on board actually with the Alpine, as the Alpine is looking pretty sharp indeed, but unfortunately Silas is just about to get into the DRS of the car in front, as Scyther has just made a move now against Finn for 8th place. That's hard versus soft tyres, so the soft tyres may be already beginning to switch off, and there's a collision between Jack, who breaks that little bit later by the looks of things, versus the Haas, and that is an instant move for Venom, who now up to 12th place. But of course they're both going to have DRS versus Silas, but is Silas going to be able to hold on going into turn 1? I think he will, you know, and he stays in 11th. Jack down to 13th, Venom up to 12th.
Tepid is really catching drivers out going into turn 17 then, and who's that in the wall? That's PSR Fern in the Alfa Romeo. That came by surprise, and just like that we've got a full course yellow on the circuit, which is very surprising. I'm not quite sure what it is, because it hasn't appeared yet. It is a full course safety car, Jota, early in this race.
It's a very early call for a safety car dispatch, that probably because of debris that is on the circuit as a result of that collision with PSR Fern. Now, it is a safety car, as much as you may not be able to see it at the moment. We'll see if we can get that to appear. No, okay, never mind. It is a full course caution. We are under the safety car, so that has completely eliminated any gap that Elite actually had versus the rest of the drivers. He had a nearly 6 second gap versus everyone, and now suddenly Smokey and Wilson right back into this race. Scyther is a little bit of a dark horse as well. Maybe an opportunity for him to get off to the hards and go on to a set of mediums to the end of this race. Finn certainly could get off those soft tyres and go on a set of mediums. That'd be handy. But for those that are currently on the medium tyre, this is potentially the worst time for a safety car, because it's like slap bang in the middle of their pit window.
Into the pits then, and doesn't speed. A little chicane there, which would be a bit fiddly if you actually had control going into the pit lane. Then Smokey following, as does WR Wilson, M-Racer, Choco, Matthew and Pisty as well. So all 7 of the lead drivers, if you like, that were on the medium tyres are going to get rid of those and go onto the hards until the end, which I think is the right call. But Scyther is going for the track position here. He's going to be racing Elite on exit by the looks of it, and he's actually still behind the Aston Martin driver, just showing you how much of a gap Elite built up there. But yeah, Scyther taking track position. He'll gamble on another safety car potentially later in this race.
Now behind the Mercedes AMG GT Black Edition safety car, as he is just driving the virtual burnt Minelander, that is. He's just currently driving around the circuit now, collecting all of the vehicles. Elite in first place, and as you rightfully point out, Scyther and both Jack as well decided to stay out on the same set of hard tyres. He obviously wants to make a double stint, if you will, on these hard tyres. Now, the majority of those that wanted to go onto, or potentially could have not gone onto hard tyres, chose in the end to go onto hard tyres. However, Finn, and I think rightfully so, decided to go onto the set of mediums. Placky also on a set of mediums. Fern and Bourbon also on a set of mediums. They're going to be quick off the line here. The hard tyres, a reasonably good race tyre, but pace-wise, just not going to be quite there versus these mediums come the beginning of this, or the end rather, of this safety car period. So keep a firm eye, I think, on that Mercedes of Finn, and certainly keep an eye out on Scyther and Jack on the same set of hard tyres. They are going to be very quick to warm up versus the Elites. Question is Scyther going to go all out to try and take the victory here? Remember that he has to do a pit stop.
I think I'd be cautious. He'll know Elite's pace, and obviously the same driver that put 4 seconds on his head in the first couple of laps before he was tapped around. So I don't think there'll be too much desperation. Jack, however, he's racing with his fellow American driver here in the States. So yeah, maybe he'll fancy his chances. We've seen him involved in some battles already in this race. As a neutral, as a commentator, I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of that, and it also puts Smokey, Wilson, M Race and Choco at a bit of a disadvantage going into this stint as well. Then he has gone onto the medium tyres. Whether they'll get to the end or not, he might need another 1 or 2 safety cars for that to be absolutely certain, but based on the sensitivity of that crash by Fern, I wouldn't rule it out just yet.
It's worth making note, of course, that with these, this is an opportunity for not just the drivers, but of course WOR to understand that sensitivity with the safety car. And of course, Fern just binned it into the wall, lost a front wing, but because of the debris on circuit, immediately the game said, yeah, that's a safety car, and that's brought all the pack back together again. It's exactly going to bring us the racing we want. However, with everyone, or the majority of the people on the hard tyre, it's going to be very difficult to get those tyres up to scratch. And when we're talking about a set of cars that people are still struggling to get used with, we may end up having maybe another safety car due to an incident that's going to happen. We'll have to see. Either way, lap 9 of 29, 20 laps to go in this Miami Grand Prix, and it is going to be close, I think, now we've got everyone all bunched up together. Elite in first place with Scyther in second and Jack in third. Second and third place yet to make their pit stop. Everyone else has made at least one pit stop so far, and your early favourite, I mean, people already making comments about Elite. Elite's pace is incredible, says Brandon in the chats, and alongside other people who are just saying, Connor saying, why is Elite so far in front? I mean, it's just so quick, isn't he?
It's frightening, genuinely very frightening, and for a little controller pleb like me who looks at those wild times and goes, Jesus Christ, how do you do it? But yeah, it is scary, and especially for competitors who will be up against him this season. Connor saying there as well he couldn't make this evening's race, which is unfortunate, and maybe he's glad to escape some of this pace by Elite. But again, a new stint here. The safety car off in at the end of this lap, and so we'll be getting racing again. Just look at that tyre warm-up though, absolutely critical.
Absolutely critical indeed for these hard tyre runners. It's not going to be so bad for Scyther and Jack. They are on old sets, scrub sets of hards that might warm up that little bit quicker. We'll see. They're coming around that final corner then. Safety car now in the pit lane, so they've got full control of their accelerator pedal, and Elite has gone, and we will go green again here in Miami, and he will lead their way into turn 1. Doesn't look like anyone's going to be going for any major dive bombs going into 1. It's not really a corner you'd expect major overtaking to be done as they head through now to turn 2. Turn 3 is Amazed, and Bourbon may get into a little bit of a scrap as Amazed actually looks like he's lost another couple of positions going into turn 1 as they now head through turn 5, turn 6. The rest of the field staying in close proximity. Elite already pulling one hell of a gap versus Scyther, nearly 3/4 of a second as we have more yellow flags. We've got a spinning car, and Shazoo Nick has spun in the Alpine. He's down in P20 now as a result of that one, and then Scyther following them from Jack, who's almost losing DRS here. Both of them actually on Elite on each other, with Smokey in 4th, Wilson in 5th, and Wilson keeping in very close proximity actually of Smokey, and Wilson under some increasing pressure here to stay within proximity of the top 3. Otherwise he may end up becoming a sitting duck, and he's locked up going into the corner as well. I think there is a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of that Haas.
Maybe, and well, Jack has dropped over a second behind Scyther at this point, who's equally about to drop just outside of a second of Elite at the moment. So this is going to start disrupting the DRS trains once we get that enabled in a couple of laps time. Of course, 3 laps after a safety car period, and that gets re-enabled again. But other than that, it has been a relatively clean restart lap, and that's good to see. We're just starting to see the race take a little bit of shape once again.
So, DRS is not going to be available for Scyther or Jack when it gets restarted at the end of this lap. They are over 1 second at the moment as it stands. Wilson, though, very close proximity still to Smokey. It did lose a little bit of time in that third sector, but regained it immediately coming out of the final 2 corners, and he's looking to try and keep it nice and tidy if he can. Try and keep it close with Smokey, having a very good sector 1 at the moment, and trying to get as close as he can to Jack. Now a bit over half a second separating Wilson from Smokey, and half a second separating M Racing from Wilson as well. So Wilson's just going to have to bear that one in mind, because of course he's got a very quick driver in M Racer behind him, and then Matthew in 7th place, of course, one of the drivers in that slightly controversial incident between him and Fern in qualifying. He's in 7th at the moment and just out of DRS, so he's got Choco for company, and Finn, who's on that medium tyre, remember, as Humperdinck now getting 6 seconds worth of penalties for track extension issues, creative interpretations of the circuit, as Jeff would once say, before unfortunately he decided to depart from Formula 1, and now we're left with Mark.
Mark, of course, who often gets very enthusiastic about pretty negative things. You've lost a well done. Is kind of the vibe he gives off, but I don't think these drivers really listen to whatever Mark has to say. It's often very professionally conducted with race engineers within these rapidly rising esports teams. So yeah, that might be enforced today. I don't really know what's going on with the situation of most of these drivers, but it is an intriguing factor nevertheless. Finn, though, his progress quite slow at the moment. He drops it outside of the DRS range of Choco. He's right on that battery, trying to get back into it. And yeah, medium tyres have not really worked in his favour so far.
Absolutely agree. Not working at the moment here. Just going to keep a very firm eye. Excuse me, I don't know, I've got a little tickle in my throat developing. Probably because it's a bit rusty at the moment. It's been so long since we've been able to get back in that commentary booth, hasn't it, Joseph? M Racer, 6th place at the moment. He is trying to close down the gap on Wilson, but at the moment that DRS train really starting to form, and we've lost our first driver. Bourbon has crashed, and he was, believe it or not, on the medium tyre, and the safety car has come out as a result. He's crashed it. Just trying to get my numbers right on this particular circuit. Looks like he's lost it at turn 5, and the McLaren out of the run-in has brought the safety car out once again. Everyone now slowed down to 40% of their race distance, and I'm expecting people to get off of the hard tyre as quickly as they possibly can, though weirdly that medium tyre, as you rightfully point out, has not been quick versus the hard in this particular stint. Very interesting.
Perhaps maybe it's a track thing, difficult to follow, as we've not really seen drivers be able to get right up close to the back of each other, but I'm intrigued here. Maybe Scyther and Jack will take that opportunity to get off their worn hard tyres now, though Elite, who probably feeling quite fresh on those hard tyres. We'll see what he does here. It looks like he's backing up the pack, trying to make a decision. He does stay out. Scyther and Jack do come into the pit lane then. Let's see what tyres they go on to.
13:29, they've got 16 laps plus the safety car laps, of course, to get onto a set of medium tyres and having a go at this one. Just a quick opportunity now to have a look at the chat, see what people are doing at the moment. Dan just in the chat saying hello. Hello, Dan. How nice to have you on board with us at the moment. As Crispy in the chat saying Venom Goat. Absolutely is Venom the Goat. He's trying to get his shift on, if you will, currently in 9th place at the moment. And then Brandon saying commentary is awesome. It's not me, it's all Joseph, to be honest with you. Thank you very much for that comment on that one. So we have 16 laps to go, as I said. Joseph, we are under our second safety car, rightfully called out by, I think, both of us here. This safety car period, the hard tyres going on, people were bound to make a mistake. Unfortunately, it wasn't a hard tyre that messed up, it was a medium tyre runner in Bourbon that's brought the second safety car out. That's allowed Elite then to slow down the field, but now he has a new challenger behind him in WOR Smokey and WOR Wilson, of course. WOR esports drivers looking to try and close up the gap and take the FRA driver out of the lead of this race, but so far he is looking rampant.
Definitely so, and this restart coming up is going to be a little different from the first one, as Smokey is on the same strategy as Elite this time, and so there isn't going to be a tyre difference between them. But based on, of course, the race start, we go over it again. Elite can just dump time in your face and you have no idea where it comes from. Further back then, we have Shazoo Nick on soft tyres, so obviously not much to lose there. Back in 19th, the last of the running cars so far. We'll see what he gets up to then in this upcoming stint. And it looks like TMS Amaze is still out of the session. I've given him an invite, but oh, there we go. He's just joined back as soon as I say that, so it's good to see him back.
Yeah, it's very well timed, that one, as always, Joseph. He's down in 17th at the moment, just reconnecting into the session. Hopefully we can see him get racing. A couple of times he's disconnected in his session as well, so hopefully it won't be a reoccurring thing throughout his career, if you will, on F122. So, as I said, behind the safety car, we've got 15 laps to go in this race. Elite leading the way. He is staying on the same set of hard tyres. I expect if there's another safety car straight after this one, we will expect a bunch of drivers all coming in to go onto a set of mediums, if not a set of softs. But at the moment, all of the top 6 on hard tyres. Finn stays on the same set of medium tyres as he is looking to try and make some inroads on the top 6. It's worth mentioning as well, of course, that under the safety car, he's not really using these medium tyres, which means that they're not really going to age that badly come the end of the race, and the hard tyres may not ever come back if we keep having these safety cars. So Finn, a little bit of a dark horse in this race, you know.
Yeah, definitely so, and obviously this is the second safety car period he's had those medium tyres on, so they've only done 1 or 2 racing laps, so potentially that is, he could find a way back into the top 5 fight, and it'd be great if Finn, who has of course recently joined VSR, don't be fooled by that FRT Finn gamer tag, he's yet to change it. Of course he joins Jack as part of the team, so they've got an interesting duo. VSR and Xbox always a little bit of question over their full commitment, but it seems like Finn is willing to commit to them, and will he commit to a grandstand finish in this race?
Yes, absolutely, and he's going to be one to watch in the background. We'll keep an eye out then on the 7th place man. And now all the drivers just slowly get themselves ready. Now I must admit, I'm just watching Amazed at the moment. Amazed is very, very slow on the map at the moment, and I am wondering if he's purposely keeping it slow and steady so there can be another lap behind the safety car to make his soft tyres last. Let's go on board with him at the moment. I'm just going to monitor, and he is taking this circuit very gingerly to try and force that safety car out one more lap. So he's obviously working with the game mechanics in order to make these soft tyres last the long as possible. Not exactly the motivational thing you'd want to see maybe from a driver as he just joins the back of the queue in what he thinks is a very unsuspicious way, but nonetheless, Amaze going around the circuit, and he will now be on a set of soft tyres that will probably be the freshest on the circuit, as we've got a bunch of drivers all coming in, including one Humperdinck and Amazed himself, weirdly enough, and that may not be a surprise, of course, if he has slowed down because he wants to get off the soft tyres. And look at that, fresh set of hard tyres, waiting for him. And I say fresh, they're 6 laps old, can you believe it?
That is rather strange. Yeah, back onto the hards then, just to make sure he does get to the end of this race without any trouble. But the Humperdinck did opt for the soft tyre, so he is joining Shazoo Nick in seeing if they can get to the end of this race. If not, take another pit stop under maybe another safety car. This is the second of, I believe it's still a possible 5 limit on this game. I'm not sure if that's changed, but we did have 3 at Melbourne on Tuesday night. So again, clearly on this game, the likelihood is very high.
Quite indeed, especially a circuit like this one, of course, with the street-like properties of a certain circuit. The wall's being so close, of course, Bourbon being the casualty of that one. He is now at the back, he's out of the race, rather, with Amazed at the back of the grid now. He will then reconnect to this grid, and he will be in P19 on a used set of hard tyres that he's hoping to keep warm. The safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, so excuse me, it's going to be a crucial moment here for Elite. He wants to make sure that he keeps a very firm eye on the likes of Smokey and Wilson. It's a completely different competitor in Smokey and Wilson compared to what he was facing through Scyther. Scyther on a set of medium tyres now as well. They're fresh, 15th place for him, though. He's going to have to make some inroads as Pisty and Finn negotiating positions to try and get themselves back and ready in this race. And again, look at that weaving on the circuit to keep those tyres warm and fresh for racing. It's going to be tight. It's going to be steady. The safety car is now in the pit lane, and now he will have every opportunity to go whenever he wants, Will Elite, because he's going to lead this pack, and he has gone a little bit earlier than he did last time as he now heads around that corner, and a bucket load of understeer as that Aston Martin did not look strong indeed. He then comes through the final corner as Venom gets a 5-second penalty for collision with Pisty. We go green again here in Miami, and it's looking very close and very steady for Smokey. Yes, that's a big lock-up from Elite. Looks like those tyres are not looking strong. Very cold indeed, and Smokey going to be going alongside, heading through then into turn 3, turn 4. Smokey trying to keep it steady, but Elite's going to have that inside line going into the next corner. Surely he's going to have the advantage. It's going to go around the outside, and that is going to be the position gain. That is a little bit of a scare there for Elite. It was this race win, let's be honest, is in his hands, and little mistakes like that one could just cost you a win. It can cost you a championship in the future.
It can, and that is a rare mistake from Elite, but Smokey is really aggressive off this safety car restart. He's using loads of battery, almost half of it drained on this lap alone, but it looks like Elite has got the memo. He's used even more battery to stay out in front in this Miami social race, and that is a bit of a let-off for him, but he did do well, in all fairness, to defend the position going into turn number 4.
Oh, I mean, I'll tell you what, my voice is really rusty at the moment. It's been so long since we've been in the commentator's box, Joseph. I'm already losing my voice in this race. 16 of 29. We've got 13 laps to go. Nick gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. That's for track extension. Smokey is just about to leave the DRS of Elite, and that, I feel, is because he is down on ERS, and now the electrical energy, he needs to get into harvesting mode ASAP and start really looking after that. Otherwise, he's going to end up being a little bit of a sitting duck. Ree, Wilson and Matthew up in P4 as well. 3 WOR drivers in the top 4. So WOR Esports very happy with their drivers so far in this particular esports event in WOR social races in lobby number 1 of the Xbox tiers. M-Racer trying to close down the gap, but he's losing time and actually could be under some pressure from Choco here as we lose another driver, and we lost a driver in the pit lane. VSR Jack has retired out of this race in the pit lane. He has had enough of this social race, and he will be scoring nil points as he just leaves the session immediately. That looks like a rage quit.
Yeah, he did spin off the exit of turn 17, so I think Jack just not liking the controversial preset setups this evening. If you guys are unaware with that, that was in the end the decision. There was a vote, but it did remain as preset setups this evening. So increased downforce, increased top speed, whatever it is, they're all going to be relatively similar this evening. And yeah, setups is a huge factor. Drivers striving for better and better setups all the time, often working with their esports teams like you were just mentioning. And yeah, certainly to not have that this evening, I don't know, it kind of takes away from the testing feel a bit, but not to worry, we're still seeing some great racing produced at the moment.
Absolutely, we're just following Matthew at the moment in the AlphaTauri. He's trying to keep as close as he can to Wilson at the moment. He's about to leave the DRS territory himself. He will have it if he stays in this, but only just, and now he's out of it, and DRS has been enabled now at the end of this lap. But unfortunately, he is hovering in and out, and he is using a lot of ERS. Looks like he's down to about 4 or 5% at the moment, is Matthew, as he locks up massively going into the corner, but still hits his apex. Looks to me as if Matthew, slowly but surely, has been using up his ERS a little bit too much. The thankful case, though, in this game, at least in my experience anyway, is that you do tend to, the sensibility, you do tend to use a lot of ERS quite quickly, but you do tend to build it back up quite quickly than in other previous iterations of this game. So harvesting may not take as long in racing scenarios such as this. You just don't want to do it for too long, otherwise you'll lose too much time, so much time you're not able to keep up. By the way, lap 18 of 29, nearly 10 laps to go, and so far looking all good for the Welshman in Elite, despite a little mistake at the end of that safety car period.
It's not looking good though for FRA v Pisty, who came to a stop. He was on the brakes and he stopped pretty much on the apex of turn 4. He's got back underway now, of course. Might have had to become aware to some sort of emergency or something like that. Maybe a technical issue within his wheel, but yeah, it's very strange to see Pisty back there now after pretty much stopping on the circuit. But Elite though, his fellow FRA driver, is he's having a Sunday drive. He is absolutely flying still.
1.4 seconds elite to Smokey, but at the moment 7/10 of a second for Wilson, who just locks up going into the penultimate corner. He's going to keep it steady then, as it looks like Smokey is already going into harvesting, but he's using overtake and he's down to 0%. He's derated completely, has WOR Wilson, and now the opportunity knocks for anybody that's been able to look after their ERS, and unfortunately none of the WOR esports drivers have done that. They're all down to nearly, or they're down below 10%, that is for certain. And look at that Red Bull of M Racer. Suddenly he's opened up a door for him, because look at that ERS, all of that juicy electrical energy, over 60% available at his disposal. As we lose another driver in Pisty in the pit lane, he's retired and he's had enough as well. That to me looks like we've got M Racer really starting to close down that gap, and he might just be another dark horse in this race, just purely on ERS management.
Certainly the case on Tuesday night. M Racer had a lot of ERS. He was very, very economical with it throughout the course of the race, whereas WOR Wilson was so quick to burn it all. And I did commentate a race last night with WR Wilson at the forefront, and he was using as much ERS as possible, even in the low numbers in terms of percentage. So very interesting, the variation in ERS strategy, tyre strategy. We have it all really on this year's game. It's M Racer's chance though, with Matthew struggling, Wilson struggling. He's using overtake even on an empty battery.
It's a little bit of a daft call to use that much electricity. Someone's going to start harvesting at some point, otherwise they may end up becoming a bit of a sitting duck to those behind them. Surely it's an opportunity for the likes of Smokey to get on a little bit of lifting and coasting and start becoming an economical driver. And again, derating is Wilson in the Aston Martin, and Matthew also struggling out there at the moment, in a small little bit smear on the windscreen of electrical energy available for Matthew, but it's less than 10%. At what point is M Racer going to start making a challenge and is going to start putting pressure on these people? We'll have to see. SAV Legend retires in the pit lane as well. He has had enough. Humperdinck, he is speeding in the pit lane because he's retiring from the session as well. We've got a bunch of people choosing that their social race is now over and done with, and they are now leaving the session. M Racer, though, we're keeping an eye on him. He is getting closer. He has got DRS available. Is he going to use overtake? He might as well. You can see the red blinking light at the back. The car is harvesting energy on the straight, which means he's got no power. But M Racer again doesn't go for it, but he ends up nudging the AlphaTauri, and he now comes into a cross onto the circuit, and M Racer colliding into the back of the AlphaTauri, unfortunately, might have just cost him a chance of being able to race with the likes of Wilson and Smokey. Down to 1.7 seconds between Matthew and Wilson.
Indeed, and that's not the first time we've seen an incident down at turn number 11 in this race, though. In all fairness to M Racer, he was very sportsmanlike and offered
his overtake
back. Here he goes, though. Like you say, down the inside he goes. M Racer, let him through. Let him off the first time. After that nudge, but on the second time off.
Full course caution. We have a safety car. Sorry to interrupt. We have a safety car that's been released. I'm trying to figure out exactly as to why we have a safety car that's been launched, but everyone has darted into the pits very last minute to try and get out there. But of course, Elite, Smokey, and Wilson and M Racer were all past, and Scyther were all past it at that point. In fact, no, Scyther wasn't. He's decided to stay out, and he stays on that same set of medium tyres. He's going to be monumentally faster, maybe, versus the 4 hard tyres in front of him. So he suddenly becomes the dark horse. But Matthew is going to lead the way of a bunch of drivers who have all come in the pits to get onto a set of soft tyres to the end of this race, as we have Choco in 7th, Fern in 8th, and then Venom on the same set of hard tyres. Now I believe he's ghosted at the moment, so hopefully he'll be able to reconnect. He's in 9th with Finn in 10th, Packy 11th, Boberts in 12th, Nick in 13th, and Amaze down in 14th place, as Silas chose to retire in the pits as well. So we're down to just 14 runners in this event, and out of those 14, only 1 retired as a result of a crash. Looks like the rest of them retired in the pit lane. That's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, and I'm still struggling to figure out where that safety car came from. Sorry, we were covering that overtake from M Racer on WR Matthew, and Matthew was able to dart into the pits on a fresh set of soft tyres. So it's advantage Matthew even after all of that. So a little bit ironic in that sense, but But is he able to pick through this field and go on to win this race? That would be dramatic if he was able to pick off 5 drivers in the remaining 8 or so laps.
Absolutely. I mean, what we've just got here, Mr. Caesar, FRA Caesar, just popping into the chat himself. Good evening to yourself. Well, this should be fun. His comments, he's absolutely right. This should definitely be fun. Who knows what can happen in an event like this one. We've got 4 hard tyres in front, a medium tyre in the middle, and the rest are on soft except the Ghost car in 11th in Venom. This is very much, spoiler alert for those who haven't watched it yet, a very British Grand Prix moment, if you know what I mean, Joseph. We've got a bunch of drivers on old, harder tyres, and then, of course, we've got those on the softer tyres just behind. And WOR Venom has managed to reconnect into the session, but coming into the pit lane is actually M Racer. He's decided he's had enough and he's coming off of the hard tyre. He's going to go onto the soft and he's going to sacrifice track position to get some racing done. Bit of a bold call with everyone on soft tyres around him.
Yeah, it is, and if I was in that position, I maybe would have just gambled on the track position, because pitting, well, what's that? How many positions did he lost there? It was 4th.
He was
now down to
4th,
12.
yeah.
So 8 positions lost there through pitting, and that advantage that he has from track position completely nulled, because, well, drivers in front of him are also on fresh soft tyres. Maybe he's trying to make it challenging for himself. I'm not too sure, but yeah, interesting call there from M Racer. I wonder if he'd do that though in the actual season where points are on offer.
Absolutely. Ryan Jacobs, as I live and breathe. Good evening to yourself, sir. 14 runners. Ryan Jacobs will return. He says he's going to return. Let's see what happens to him. Get through the challenges first, my friend. Let's see what happens, and hopefully he will be entertained, as will the rest of you guys, with these 14 runners that are left in this event. We have got a very, very interesting scenario happening in front of us. We've got 3 drivers on hards, 1 on mediums. The rest are on softs, except 1 driver just reconnecting into the session. I mean, these soft tyre runners are going to be quick. Now, just before we get going, because we don't think we're going to... I think the safety car's going to be out for another lap. Let's be honest, from our experience of these drivers, WR Matthew is a very aggressive driver. He's leading the pack on the soft tyres. What are we going to expect from that AlphaTauri?
Well, Matthew, he's already been involved in a couple of moments in qualifying and in the race just recently as well. Not through his particular fault, though, especially the collision a couple of laps ago. But yeah, I expect him to go for it. I expect him to pick off Cider pretty quickly, and then it's the 3 hard tyre drivers. That was a difficult one to say. Out in front, Wilson, Smokey have developed a bit of a habit for dumping that battery, of course. So if Matthew can just be calm and not waste his energy, he'll be able to pick them off when DRS is enabled, of course. And yeah, I expect him to produce that grandstand finish we were hoping for here.
Again, Ryan Jacobs is just spamming the chat at the moment as well, would you believe, as we're just keeping an eye on what's happening here. Ryan Jacobs, Jota might go. No, don't go there. He's currently watching it live from the bus, can you believe, Joseph? He's currently watching this event live at the moment, so good evening to everyone on the bus as well, who might just be tuning into the final 5 laps of this race at the point of them coming across that start-finishing line. Elite is leading the way on a set of hard tyres with Smokey in second and Wilson in third, but you've got a bunch of drivers all on soft tyres behind this safety car here. Anything can happen, and it usually does, Joseph.
Usually does. Miami wasn't an instant classic this season in Formula 1. We've still got many years, I'm sure, that we will eventually get one. But yeah, the variation strategy, not just in Miami, every circuit can produce these sorts of moments. And the safety car leads in the way, then think it's going to come in at the end of this lap. 14 2022 Formula 1 cars unleashed for what is going to be a sprint to the finish, much like Silverstone and much like the sprint races that we've now got in the game as well.
And good evening as well to Jed as well, who's just said good evening as well in response to what we said earlier for those guys currently on the bus. And in fact, everyone from the Pro said good evening as well. Good evening to everyone from the Pro. Hope you're all doing very well and everything is going so far very well in the Pro exhibition. We have 5 laps ahead of us then, ladies and gentlemen. We have we're gonna go racing on a very peculiar scenario. 3 on hards, everyone else on softs, except Scyther on mediums. I beg the question to you. You've got £1. Who are you going to put that money on? I don't know where it's going to go. Elite has been quick so far this race. He's been fantastic all the way through this race, but now everything is against him. He's coming around that final corner. We're going to go racing for the final 5 laps here. We go green again here in Miami, and Elite is going to be leading the way, and he's got a really good start actually versus Smokey and Scyther. Already making a move against the Aston Martin, but a very late break around that outside line, and then Wilson is still trying to fight hard here, but Scyther's going to get through, and he's up to 3rd place on those medium tyres as we got spinners, and Wilson is losing it around the place at the moment on those hard tyres that he's currently got on at the moment, and Fern is trying to get close as well for 6th place. Cypher still in 3rd, but Wilson and with Matthew and Choco and Fern getting into the mix. It is mighty close stuff. Those hard tyres have completely fallen off the cliff versus the softs here, and this is going to be a potential amazing finish to this race, or it's going to go haywire for those on the hards.
Slightly offline there. He got the wheel spin, and it was at the point of no return for him. Elite under pressure still as Smokey continues to harry the back of the Aston Martin. Scyther, though, what a restart it was from him, prompting the overtake into the first corner. Matthew, though, just behind Choco, Fern as well, and Wilson is sandwiched in between a load of soft runners with 5 laps to go as we cross the line. Scyther pulls to the left-hand side. Here he goes on the Haas then. Can he commit to the move here? He's dumping all of that battery. He's almost used his whole lot. Coming to the end of this restart lap for the 3rd time in this Miami Grand Prix. Is he able to squeeze down the inside of the Haas? Yes, he is, but has he got the traction? Bit squirrely on the exit, and side by side they go as we start lap 25.
Here comes Choco, then he's managed to make a move on a sliding Matthew as he gets a bunch of oversteer, and he has to deal with that one as Choco now leads the way of those on the soft tyres. No, Matthew is not going to be happy with that one. He knows that 2nd place might only be the case he can go for here. Here's Choco trying to get past Smokey. Now, of course, it's not going to be any kind of opportunity for overtaking around this part of the circuit. It's all about lining yourself up then through turn 5, into turn 6, and then through that long straight, not straight, through 9 and 10, and he's got to keep it nice, he's got to keep it tight, and that is exactly what Choco is doing. And look at that ERS he's got available as well. He's not burnt through any of it, he's just played his time, and he's going to play an absolute blinder. He's going to get the move done on the Haas. The DRS is going to be available for him as he then heads through here. He's decided not to go for the overtake, and the Haas is already harvesting energy, and Elite is currently struggling with energy as well. Here goes the dive down that inside line from the Haas, and it goes wide, does the Aston Martin, and the Mercedes is looking sharp. This is the kind of racing we wanted. Close, non-inch racing, and that is just a little bit of a tap there from Choco, and Scyther trying to get in the mix, and he's trying to cover off WOR Matthew with Lost Venom. He's crashed out of this race. Surely we're not going to see a safety car. We are going to see a safety car, which is going to chop this race up. I cannot imagine the safety car is going to stay all the way to the end of this race. I think we've only got this safety car for 1 or 2 laps. That's going to give these drivers plenty of time to recharge their battery and get ready for a final 2 or 3 lap dash.
Goodness me, this is incredible stuff for Smokey. He was slipstreaming off the back of Elite. He was dumping that battery as we saw, and then he almost committed to the move, but I thought for one moment he was going to squeeze up the inside into turn 12 and turn 13. Incredible stuff as the Mercedes AMG safety car rejoins the action then for a 4th time in this race. Like you say, I don't think it's going to stay out long. Meanwhile, Scyther and Bobbitt's into the pit lane, and Matthew as well. Matthew, of course, who was tangled up in some of that. He's down now in P13. His race looks to be run, and yeah, the 3 of those onto fresh soft tyres.
5-second penalty also in the head of WOR Matthew, who chooses to pit. He will serve that penalty as a result of that one, I believe. He goes all the way to the back, as you rightfully point out. He is now down in P13. He is out of this race. Choco leading the way of those on the soft tyre. WOR Wilson is splitting 1 soft tyre from the rest at the moment, and I'm sure Placky, Finn and M Racer especially are going to be worried, to put it bluntly, to try and get past Wilson ASAP, to try and put some kind of pressure on Choco, who out of nowhere, the Mercedes has suddenly become a serious contender for this race win tonight. But he's got 2 hard tyres in front of him in Smokey and Elite. Elite will do everything in his power to stop this race win from not landing in his lap, because he has fought for this the last 26 laps as well as qualifying, and if he was to lose this on the last lap or 2, it's going to be devastating for the Aston Martin.
And I think the credit has to be said now. 4 safety cars for Elite. He successfully held the lead on 3 of the restarts, and of course really for FRA Elite, this is 5th start of a race, pretty much. 5 individual races all in one that he's had to lead off here, because each time he's built up such a gap, really, especially in that first stint. And yeah, it would be heartbreaking if he was to go on and lose this, though. I think it's just all pointing fingers at a very dominant season upcoming for the Welshman.
I think we've got 2 laps of racing left. This safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, lap 27. And these drivers are now going to be preparing themselves, preparing their tyres, getting everything fresh. Scyther and Bobberts are going to be incredibly quick, as will Matthew. Fresh soft tyres for them. But those soft tyres on the likes of Placky, Finn and M Racer are barely used, to be fair. They've only been used maybe for 1 lap of racing, so they're going to be reasonably fresh. Those hard tyres, despite the fact that they've not really been used because they've been under 4 safety cars throughout this race, are not going to be up to scratch versus these soft tyres at the moment. Choco is in a seriously opportunistic position. He just can't spoil it and make any silly errors, which we have seen from multiple drivers in this scenario before. Many other leagues, I'm trying to recall instances where there's been a clear opportunity to win and then they've messed it up on that final lap, but there's been plenty of scenarios throughout the esports community where that has happened. I'm sure if Ryan Jacobs is watching, Senior Bottler will be able to recall one. I'm joking, by the way, Jacob. I'm joking. It's going to be interesting to see what we've got ahead of us. 27 to 29. Safety car certainly coming in at the end of this lap. Matthew is taking his sweet time to get back, but I have a feeling it doesn't matter. The safety car surely is going to be coming in.
It should. Fortunately, this time there are no lap cars in the way. It is just going to be a straight and fair fight to the finish line here, and 4 safety cars. Still very difficult to believe. That's 1 up on what we had at Melbourne, as FRA Elite gives us a little bit of a drift coming out of the chicane. Still no indication just yet, but as soon as the lights go off on the Mercedes AMG safety car, there it is. We'll be racing at the end of this lap, a 2-lap shootout. Who will take glory here in Miami?
I'm taking a very quick look at Elite at the moment, and he is putting a large gap between him and Smokey already. He wants to get going with this, and I can't really blame him. It's a really awful scenario here. He's going to have to hope that Smokey tries to defend more than attack. And he's not, because he's going side by side with him, going through that final corner. He's on the curb, and he's going to go green, and that is a bit of a tank slapper for Elite as he puts the power down. We go green again for the final time here in Miami, and Elite is going to get under some pressure. Here comes Choco going down that inside line. He's going to hold on. It's a big look up from that, and Choco is spun, and that is him out of this race as we keep a firm eye on all the other soft tyre runners, as Finn is now leading the way, and the other Mercedes driver is now trying to power on, but there's a large gap between the 2 hard tyre runners who are still battling, as the Haas is trying to keep close here, as Choco retires on circuit out of frustration for being spun out there. I believe in the incident with Smokey colliding into the back of him ever so slightly. Placky also in the mix as well, and Wilson holding on for dear life to P5 after battling with Scyther at the moment. Finn is in a real opportunity, but he needs to close down the gap, and he needs to hope as well that Smokey and Elite keep battling here, but I wouldn't blame them if they chose, you know what, I think we're in the best scenario here. Just don't battle each other. Don't lose too much time, because these soft tyre runners are going to catch up, and they're going to catch up quick. No, Smokey's going to go for it. He's trying to get in the wing mirrors of Elite. This is close, this is close, this is tight, and this is really aggressive racing.
Well, the thing is, I was not expecting that sort of restart. Of course, it's the last 2 laps. Everyone's going to get a bit aggressive. Everyone's going to try and take 1 or 2 positions off the restart. Smokey, 8 tenths behind. Finn has dropped back quite a bit, and Placky is putting him under all sorts of pressure. FRA Elite weaving to break the toe, and he's going to have to do that for 1 more lap then in this race, as the Aston Martin makes his way into the final braking zone on the circuit. Does that just about okay as M Racer gets down the... Oh no, there's actually a collision, and it's WOR Wilson involved there with Matthew and Nick, and M Racer there as well involved. I might have repeated a few names just then, but that collision has happened. That's the 10th retirement in this race. 10 runners remain, 1 to go.
50% of this race, 50% race distance, 50% of the racing guys have left. So we're in a scenario here where all the drivers are a bit frustrated. It is a very tight, a very aggressive circuit here. Elite is holding on for dear life on these hard tyres, and Finn is not making the inroad you'd expect on these soft tyres here. And now the smiles are going to begin to form underneath the helmets of Elite and Smokey here. They've managed to make this one work, and that final safety car has absolutely bought them the time they needed in order to try and defend this here. So Elite has pulled the gap. DRS is not going to be enabled at all call for the rest of this race. Now it's done, it's dusted, it's all about the racing now, and Elite has pulled enough of a gap here that surely, that even if a slight tank slapper happens and he catches it, he will be okay. We'll have to see. Smokey, 1.4 seconds back. Finn is losing time to Smokey at the moment, 1.1, and he's under a lot of pressure from Placky here, so he's going to be more about defending here, you'd have to say, in that particular scenario. And a big tank slapper from Placky. That's going to bring Scyther into the mix here. He's got his overtake available, but he's not going to be pushing too hard. Looks like the ERS is now really struggling here for the Alpha Tower. Here comes Scyther, who's going to try and get P4. It's going to be nothing more than a reconciliation for him after all of this. And then Placky tries to go alongside in a big lock-up for the Alpha Tower, but we're going to have to go back to the Welshman Elite. He leads from start to finish. He wins the Miami Grand Prix social race in WOR. Smokey finishes in second with Finn in third place. Scyther in fourth with Placky in fifth. Matthew in the end finishing in a prospective P6 was amazed in seventh. Bobbets in eighth, and Nick finishing across the line and powering it in the wall at ninth.
Yeah, and Scyther there, he actually gave Placky a little bit of a tap going through the chicane, and that is what set that tank slapper for FRA Placky. And just to rub it in, he goes down the outside, turns it into a switchback, and pips Placky by about 1/10 of a second. That was an incredible end to an incredible race at this incredible venue. Well done to FRA Elite. He really did deserve that. Pretty much leading every single lap of the race. In fact, I think he did, and lifts the trophy to go with it. Well done to him.
Well, long story short, then it's going to be an excellent performance indeed from the main man himself, Elite. He manages to snag pole position. He takes first place in what is some very difficult circumstances. The Aston Martin takes the win here in Miami, and of course it is a cracking position for him to lay those foundations down, because of course we're going to be heading through to season 13 very soon in WOR, and obviously he is going to be a driver to watch in the long run. Big shout out though, of course, to the rest of the field, including the Haas driver in second. What a performance indeed it was from WOR Smokey to get that P2. He finishes then in second after finishing P5, and then P14 was the race of FRT Finn and managing to finish in P3. It's a great performance from him. Scyther in fourth with Placky in fifth. Scyther, by the way, very unlucky to even get fourth, in fairness. He's involved in a couple of incidents which led him down the pack, but fourth is a very good result nonetheless. Placky, and as I said, in fifth with Matthew in sixth, Amazed in seventh, Bobbets in eighth, and Nick in ninth. The rest of the field chose to retire from the race. Only the classifications for M Racer, Wilson, Fern and Choco, because they completed enough of the race in order to classify. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are now moving on to, of course, many other events that are going to be happening across the field in WOR. Of course, there is currently, I believe, the second lobby opening up at the moment, and I hope you can be tuning in for that one. But we are going to be heading off from lobby 1, and hopefully you can tune in for lobby 2. For myself, Joseph, and the rest of the team here in WOR, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.